Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Auntie Hour. This is our time. Today we are talking about justice. I want you guys to let that marinate for a moment. We're talking about justice, or the lack thereof, for women who happen to be in prison. So, the fact that someone is in prison does not mean that they should be denied the right to be treated with humanity and respect. And we are here today to speak with someone who witnessed firsthand some of the atrocities that are committed in the name of justice, which is really not what it actually is. We're speaking with Miss Freya Pearson. Hi, Freya.
Well, hello, how are you?
Thank you for coming to share your story with us. I know this is a little different from some of the things that we usually discuss here on the Auntie Hour. However, we are about female empowerment. We are about equality for women. We are about being treated as human beings, which is, I don't think, too much to ask. And so we're here to talk about this with Freya. How are you doing?
I am doing good. Thank you for having me.
No, thank you for coming, and thank you for you were just open and willing to share your story from the day we spoke. And there's so much that we cannot discuss. I just want to also preface by saying this. There is some pending legal action here. So there are some things that we will not be able to discuss. So if I'm asking a question and we're talking and you notice that I skip over some things, it's because we're not able to discuss those things at this time. So start by telling us where you were incarcerated and for how long you were incarcerated.
Initially, I started off with Alderson Prison Camp in West Virginia. I created a stir there, to say the least.
Okay, so we might as well just jump right into it then. So you say you created a stir there.
A little bit of a stir.
Okay, what was going on there that caused you to rise up and speak out and scream out for yourself and for the people that were around you?
Well, initially, when I arrived at the compound, I was a little taken back by everything that was happening. And I kind of sat quiet for a minute, but I'm always paying attention. And I noticed things. For example, I was listening to the warden one day. They usually do a line where the ladies can come up and ask questions or, address concerns. And I noticed that when the ladies would come up, this is how he addressed them. Which one are you, my junkie or my thief? Meaning either you're there for drugs or white collar. And I was a little taken back. I said, well, okay, a little disturbed. What's going on here, Then I ended up having to go to HSU, which is their medical services. And I encountered Dr. Wright. She is the doctor at Alderson. And I must say, again, I was a little taken back. I experienced a level of inhumanity in medical care, inhumanity in the daily lives of the women there, and an attempted inhumanity with me. But I don't have a problem speaking up. So it made it a little difficult. For example, in medical care, I had pain in my right kidney. I had gone, she told me it was a sciatic nerve. I don't have a sciatic nerve. I have pain in my right kidney. I had to go to medical every morning till they got tired of me and finally ordered the test. They ordered the test. On a Friday. It took probably about 2 months, all of this. On a Friday, I went into medical and in pain. And I asked my nurse practitioner, had my results come back. She said, well, let me look. She looked at the results. I had hydronephrosis, which is a blockage of my right kidney. She said, oh my God, I have to give you medicine right now to get rid of this inflammation. So she runs, she gives me medicine, but she didn't document the medicine. Okay, that's fine. This was Friday. Tuesday, I was still in pain. I went back into the clinic. Dr. Wright didn't like me, so she pulled my medical form every time I came in there. She just wasn't there that Friday. So I asked her, I don't know what made me do it. I said, have my test results come back in yet? She said, well, let me look. She looked, she said, nope, they're not back yet. I said, really? She said, nope. And so that I can't help you until they get back. I said, well, I'm really in pain. She said, well, I can't help you because I can't do anything without your test results. I said, oh, okay. I said, well, thank you very much. And I left. I didn't bother to tell her I had been on medication for 4 days because my test results were back, and I know you were just looking at them.
Right.
So I sent an email to the warden, the special warden, you know, the one that approaches the ladies with a junkie or a thief, that part.
Right.
And, well, his response was nothing. So I said, okay, got that treatment. Well, in the midst of that 2 months, there was an older lady with a walker that would come in there, Miss Canterbury. Miss Canterbury would come in, her stomach was really hurting. She was sick. Her face was red. She was throwing up. This went on for the whole 2 months I was going through what I was going through. Right. And because I was coming in so often, I saw Miss Canterbury. And I'd be in there sometime, and all of a sudden, here she comes. And this doctor would not help her. After a while, Miss Canterbury was rushed out by ambulance. Come to find out, Miss Canterbury had had cancer before, and her cancer had come back, and she had a tumor in her stomach. She didn't come back. She died. Right while she was in the hospital, Dr. Wright had a pattern, like I said. If I had an appointment, she'd make sure I was the last one. She'd make me sit all day, which was fine. But this particular day, I was sitting. Her phone rang, and she told me to step out. But I could hear her through the door. Right. She was talking to Miss Canterbury's family. Miss Canterbury had went into a coma, and she was talking to her family. And she was telling her family, oh, she's okay. She's doing well. And I'm sitting here listening to her. I just heard her get off the phone with the hospital. She had went into a coma. She had aspirated into her mask and went into a coma. And she's telling this family that their family member is okay. She let this sickness progress into death, and it didn't have to. It didn't have to.
So what was the next step then after I don't even know this.
People don't know.
I don't even know where to start with this one. So when you find out she's lying, they ignore your email, they don't address the fact that this woman just flat out lied about your test results being in, and they do nothing. You just manage to just get by, finish taking the medicine, and everything is okay. They never address this with you at any point.
Well, I got mad. I don't like to be ignored. And I don't like to be ignored with medical. I don't like to go to the doctor. And so when I go, there is something wrong. I'm not in there playing. I'm not looking for attention. You know, I don't feel well. But during that time, I was watching them because they thought I was weird. I walked around with a little white bag, and I'd just go from the dorm, I didn't talk to anybody, to the law library. But what I was studying, was learning, was watching them. And I discovered that I was in a little Peyton place there, Alderson. Half of the staff's name was Alderson. They were sleeping with each other. This one was married to this one, started cheating with this one, had a baby, and then divorced that one. Then they're not with this one. Then you had the captain on the compound who decided he wanted to sleep with the inmates. It was a mess. What I discovered, though, no one was listening. No one was listening. In their system, they have a place in your email system where you can click sexual harassment OIG. The mailbox was there. But what they would do when the ladies would send in a complaint, because I sent in a complaint when I was sexually harassed, what they would do, they send you a letter 2 months later and tell you that's not in their department, that they feel it's a different department. You have been referred to BOP, Bureau of Prison. So I kind of looked at it, I said, oh, that's what we're doing, okay. Not a problem. I reached out to the congresswoman in DC. She sent a letter to my congressperson in Atlanta, Representative Hanks. Nothing. Because they don't care. They don't care that women are being sexually assaulted. They don't care that women are being deprived of medical care to the point of death. They don't care that a 30-year-old woman is told to get a hysterectomy as opposed to treatment. They don't care that a woman has cancer and a federal judge had to step in to send her home early because they wouldn't give her cancer treatment. They don't care, and we keep voting them in office. There's a problem here with the way that women incarcerated are treated, and it should be unacceptable. They don't care that they have to beg for sanitary napkins because they don't want to give them sanitary napkins.
What's the rationale behind that?
Control.
There's just no other reason.
It's control. This is the staff's little place where they fully control and there's no oversight.
I read someone say somewhere before that the cruelty is the point.
That part.
The cruelty is the point.
And that it is. And that it is.
Now, as it relates to your own medical treatment, I did read some of the things that you sent over. There seems to have been a list of things that was documented that you had no knowledge of.
I had no knowledge of.
A list of
Heart trouble, I had no knowledge of. And then they minimized it. It's no big deal. But in the same breath, you need to lose weight. I had lost 20 pounds since I've been on the compound. Everything is a walk. Everything.
Right.
Which I had no problem with. I was happy.
Right.
But how do I have a mild aortic ectasia and you don't tell me?
And they're not treating you either.
No, not treating me for anything. Anything you go into the medical about, it's no big deal. It's no big deal. How Dr. Wright is allowed to practice medicine in the Bureau of Prisons with her complaint record is beyond me. There is nowhere on earth that she would be continuing to practice with her complaint record. How do you have this many deaths from women who came in that weren't all that sick? How do you have deaths from treatable illnesses, but they say that your medicine is not formulary? It's not in their budget. I have PCOS in Cushing's. They gave me a Depo shot. I don't take Depo shots. I took them when I first had PCOS, and they make your bones brittle, and that's why we stopped. They gave me a Depo shot. I bled for a month and a half. I said, what is going on here? Oh, well, that's just a side effect. No, it's not. That's not a side effect. What did you give me?
Wow.
Then they gave me, I think it was lisinopril, a couple of blood pressure medicines. The manufacturer label says this medicine can cause death. Angioedema. Angioedema causes death. This medicine does not work as well in black patients.
And yeah, I think it's the lisinopril.
It wasn't just lisinopril, it was losartan. There was a couple of them.
Right.
Manufacturer warning. So when I asked for a medicine that worked as well in black patients, it was dismissed. It was dismissed. I had a whole conversation with the warden about it. It was dismissed. He said, I'm properly being treated. Well, I had to let him know a few things. So he didn't approach me often.
And so then they wanted you out of there.
Yeah, they were having transfers where you could transfer to a new place they were open, which was Pekin, Illinois. And they took volunteers. And you had to volunteer. Well, I hadn't volunteered. So they closed everything down, no more volunteers. But the captain kept coming and asking me, the warden wants to know, are you going to Pekin?
Oh, they were trying to get rid of you.
Yeah, because at that time, I had written an entire packet up to Regional. And Regional had come to the compound. And it was not good,
Right.
when Regional came to the compound. So, and I was incarcerated in Alderson from May 30th, 2017. All of this happened between May 30th and December. So I mean, they wanted a battle, and let's have a battle. All I'm asking for is medical treatment and to leave me alone.
Right.
That's it. I don't want to have to watch women being dehumanized, called out of their name, and you think this is okay. I don't want a staff member asking me, how do I raise my leg when I go to the toilet? Because that's what he asked me.
What?
And when I wrote it up, they said it wasn't a big deal. I sent in the administrative remedy process, I used their administrative remedy process to complain. They replied and said it wasn't a big deal. When I sent it to Regional, there was no response. So when I wrote that, here's the kicker. When I wrote that big packet up to Regional, tell you what happened. All of a sudden, probably 2 weeks later, everyone on the compound started getting replies from Regional for their administrative remedies, because that's one of the things I had complained about.
Right.
Well, apparently the warden was too stupid to throw them away because he had been holding everyone's administrative remedies. They were all stamped in on the exact same day. And if I'm remembering right, it was either July 7th or August 7th. They were all of these women's administrative remedy forms were stamped in on the exact same day. Can you explain to me why Regional didn't have a problem with that? You didn't notice that after he was served,
Oh boy.
all of a sudden he sent every one of them in the mail to Regional? That was dumb, but that was him.
Let's talk a little bit about there's one particular person, I feel like I need to wash my mouth out when I say his name, Grimes.
Oh my, well the name is fitting. Captain
Yes,
Grimes.
Yes.
Captain Grimes. He was a vile little man. You'd wake up, the ladies wake up in the middle of the night, and see, I didn't sleep well, so I'm up all times of night. And I remember they were always punishing me, so they had me on what's called the bus stop, which was right in the front. And I had dozed off one night. I woke up, he was sitting at the desk in all black with a black hoodie at like 2 or 3 in the morning. And I'm not a hoodie, I'm sorry, skull cap. And I'm looking at this, what kind of foolishness is this? You know how alarming that is to wake up and he's sitting there watching all of you sleep? That was disturbing. And the place that they had us sleeping was a punishment place that the Supreme Court has deemed they're not supposed to have. It's called a bus stop. But they don't enforce anything. So when you complain, Regional does very little. Well, Captain Grimes was having sex with an inmate, or 2 or 3. And he ended up being indicted. He was arrested either the end of December of 17, beginning of January 18. He was arrested, he was indicted. He took a plea, and if I'm not mistaken, he's been sentenced to, I believe, 10 years. That was a good thing.
That doesn't sound like enough time to me. But
no, it doesn't.
But was he in West Virginia, or he was in?
He was in West Virginia at
Yes,
Alderson.
yes.
Yes, he was at West Virginia at Alderson. Oh, don't worry. The only place where I can say that you didn't see a lot of that was Pekin. The reason is because it's a prison camp that's on the compound with a men's federal prison. So you really don't have as much drama. You still have the same indignities, because I've run across a couple of them at Pekin. I had to write them up. 2 weeks after, maybe 3 weeks after I wrote them up, one of the guards that did not like me, she wrote a false incident report, which got me shipped to a FCI behind the fence. Well, she was upset because I felt, since they like to write incident reports, all the time, I felt I should write one. So I filed an administrative remedy, and I wrote 2 incident reports on their form against her. And so they thought it was funny. I didn't think it was funny. That wasn't why I did it. I did it to prove a point. Okay, these are the crimes that she has committed. Right. So why isn't she being sanctioned? Miss Latimer. Right. Yeah, she likes to lie in incident reports, and there's no defense. And because at the men's FCI is so much more important than the camp. They dismiss a lot of things that happen at the women's camp. You see, as not important.
FCI, what is that?
Oh, that's the big dogs. That's the federal prison. Yeah, that's the big prison behind the fence where they're locked down and, that kind of thing, where it's a big deal. They have stabbings regularly. They have, it's the big boys. So they have a lot to deal with on that compound. Well, they share staff.
I see.
So
Yeah.
they didn't like coming over to the women's. So anything that the women complain about, oh, that's not a big deal.
Right.
You should deal with the stuff we have over
They
here.
compare it to
They
what's going
compare
on
it.
over there.
Yes.
And so, in their eyes,
Yes.
it's not significant.
No.
Uh-huh.
No. So she wrote me a couple of incident reports, and she wanted me to sign one. She wanted to sign me extra duty. Well, the policy said you can't assign extra duty. I'm not signing that. And I'm not doing extra duty. She hated me because I wrote her up several times, which was fine. That's what I'm entitled to do.
Right.
I'm supposed to be able to write you up, and I'm supposed to have a remedy when I do that. There is no administrative remedy process in BOP for women. None. Because the process is not respected. You cannot get the forms. If you, by the grace of God, can get the forms, sometimes the staff won't even take them.
They won't take them.
And if they take them, they won't even process them. So you don't have a recourse to complain. And no one on the outside believes that it is as bad as it is on the inside. Do you know what it's like to be sitting on the toilet and then the men looking over the door and watching you sit on the toilet? All that stuff is on camera, but they do nothing about it. Do you know what it's like to be undressing and they do that? Or for them to all of a sudden need to pat search you? Or the women who are staff members and are just, I don't know where they get these women from. They just seem angry, and they mistreat you. One day I was at Aliceville, and we were in the CDR, which is the food services, like cafeteria. One of the staff members, she had a line where none of the ladies could leave out of the door until she pat searched everyone. Do you know what she was looking for? They gave the ladies honey buns. So she's pat searching them and had honey buns on the table. You couldn't leave unless she pat searched you.
So you were not allowed to take the honey bun with you.
The same honey buns they sell on commissary.
Ah.
Yeah, that part.
So
did I leave that part out?
So
Okay.
So someone gave you the honey bun, and that's a no-no.
Oh no, you couldn't take. It's just her. Well, I wrote her up. That didn't never happen again. After I wrote her up, because I wanted to know: is this a sexual thing that you're doing? Why is she touching all of these ladies
Right.
over a honey bun that you sell in commissary?
Right.
Okay, you don't want the ladies to take food out. You're gonna tell me that's not extreme. You have to touch every one of them.
No.
And so when it came to me, she said, I want to pat you. I said, you don't need to pat me down. I took my shirt off. So I don't have a honey bun. I don't have any of that. I don't eat that stuff. She said, well, turn around. I raised my shirt up. I said, why you need to touch me? She still proceeded to want to touch me. I said, okay, see, you on this stuff. I'm not gay. I don't know why you feel the need to touch me when you can clearly see how tight these clothes are.
Right.
That I don't have anything on me. Why are you touching me? I said, that's letting me know that you have a sexual thing you have going on. If I wanted to touch, I said, you still touching me. And then I said, back up, get off me. Well, I'll send you to the lieutenant's office, so. And I'm gonna write you up for sexual harassment. And that's what I did.
What is the answer to this? Because this is something. There's another reason why I know about these things firsthand. I do have someone that I know very, very well, and I've known for a very long time, who's incarcerated, and it happens to be a man, and he talks about some of the same things that you're talking about, particularly as it relates to medical care, where they go to the doctor, they have something that's bothering them, it's often dismissed. This happened a lot during COVID, where I would talk to him on the phone, they'd find folks dead in their cells, and solely because there was a failure for the administration of the hospital, of the facility, to grant those people the care that they need. Not only that, they were also permitting the disease to run rampant through the cell, through the facilities, like by not even quarantining folks or providing other places for them to stay. Now they did change that. There was a couple people that they found dead in the cell, and after that they made some changes there where they then provided an isolation area for some people, and they were a little bit more attentive. But I don't know why it always has to be that someone has to die in order for you to do what's just right from the jump.
That's not why they did it.
Why do you think?
It's not because the person died. It's because people are now looking because the person died.
Right.
They don't care
If
that the
somebody
person
dies.
died.
Right.
Okay? And I can tell you that at Aliceville, they had Warden Bradley. She's been moved to Lompoc, men's prison. That's where she belongs, at a men's prison now. She really belongs in prison. But with her, during COVID, she had they did an isolation unit. No one's qualified to run. But with her, she wasn't very smart. So one of the things that she would do, which I thought was backwards, I didn't quite understand. If you have staff working in the isolation unit, why are you moving those same staff, and some of the people in there have COVID, throughout the other units? Why are you doing that? They should be stuck in the isolation unit, or they should be quarantined before they move to a different unit. She had no clue how to run the compound. None. She had a schedule going where this unit was supposed to go after this unit would go. But if you watch the rotation, they were meeting in the middle. Right. The units were meeting anyway because she didn't have a clue. BOP delegates authority to these wardens, but these wardens aren't necessarily equipped to handle the authority that has been delegated. Then these wardens delegate the authority to their staff, who I found out, a lot of them never passed their background, they never passed their academy, their physical agility, or their tests. They just pushed them through because they needed people. So how do you delegate authority to unqualified people? That's what they do. So, and then they don't supervise them.
Right.
They don't supervise them. They don't supervise them at all.
There's one other person that I want you to talk about, and I'm sorry, her name is escaping me right now. The other woman that you encountered that passed away that while you were in prison, you spoke about.
That was Miss Canterbury, the first lady.
Right. There
the
was
next
another
lady,
one.
she actually passed away when I came home.
Right.
And that's Carolyn Cobb. We called her Cece.
Cece.
Cece
Yes.
was a mess around the compound. But she used to always say, she used to tell another friend of ours, if something happens to me, I want you to let them know what happened to me. And my family, they don't fight. I want you to fight for me, is what she used to tell the other friend. But what you discover is, how do you do that? Because out here, they don't understand that they're killing people in there. They think that all of their constitutional rights are being respected. Well, Cece didn't have her constitutional rights being respected. You put her in the hospital at the last minute. Then you don't follow what the doctors tell you needs to happen. So you send them back, then it becomes a back and forth. But it's not really a simple back and forth because they don't send them right back to the hospital. So if they send you home today and they say you need 24-hour oxygen, they say we don't provide 24-hour oxygen. So you just have to stay over here without oxygen. Well, I don't know too many hospitals that will tell you you need 24-hour oxygen if you don't need 24-hour oxygen.
Right.
You know, that's not something that they normally do.
Right.
You know, but they have medical facilities. So why don't you transfer them to a medical facility? Why don't you do that?
What can people watching right now, what can they do? What action items would you give your average person walking down the street? You know, because you're right. If you don't have someone who's been to prison, a lot of people have this mentality that people belong there. Oh, you did something, you belong there. But that does not mean that they deserve to be treated any kind of way. How do you combat this obvious evil? Because it's an obvious evil in my view. How do you address this situation? Because like you just said, people don't know how to fight, How do you do this? What's the answer?
That person you just described that didn't believe all of these things would happen like that, and that, you know, if they were convicted and they were in prison, that they were being treated differently, that was me. I was her until I went to prison. Let me back up, till I went through the process to get to prison and while in prison. Then I learned that our system wasn't just. There's no justice in it. It wasn't just. And what I would tell people, some people belong there to pay for their crimes for much less time than what they're in there. That's number one. Number two, I want you to know that they are disrespected and dehumanized daily. To this day, I don't understand how you can treat people inhumanely and then wonder why when they come home they don't act humane. It's because of what happened to them in there. They take a broken woman and then they shatter her. What I can tell people, fight. And I mean the people out here, help them. Help them. When you file these lawsuits, demand that these judges and the U.S. attorney, because he plays both sides, demand that they take action. You have Dublin. I think I just showed you the article. I'm sorry, was it Dublin?
California.
In California.
Right.
Where they had a rape club. The
Yes.
staff had a rape club.
A rape club, yeah. Disgusting.
I have not seen that on mainstream news
It's
yet. How do you
absolutely
have a rape club
disgusting.
in a federal women's prison? And the article said was it Dublin? I think it was Dublin or Danbury. I think it was Dublin.
Yeah.
But where the warden on his institution phone have naked pictures of an inmate.
It's disgusting.
Explain to me why mainstream hasn't picked that up. Do you know what a rape club in a federal prison, these women have no power. And then you come in and you sexually assault them because you can, and then it is kept quiet. Yes, there was an article about it, but I haven't seen it on the news anywhere. I haven't seen their faces anywhere.
I had never heard of this until you showed it to me, but there's something very depraved
It is,
about people who think this is okay in the first place.
that part. Or they think it's isolated. It's not isolated. It's in all of the federal prisons. They just had one at Aliceville, Mr. Ellis. He just got sentenced. But you know what kind of time they're giving him? 2-3 years
Right, they
for
don't-
raping these women. But you know what you find interesting is their behavior was already documented. When I documented that one of their officers had committed voyeurism against me, opened the door while I was on the toilet, she thought it was funny. You know what ended up happening? Nothing. This happened in October of 19, nothing. I wrote that warden up to OIA. She threw me in the shoe in January.
What's the shoe? Tell everybody what
The hole.
The hole.
She threw me in the hole in January. I said, okay, I got something for you. I went in there and went on a hunger strike. Deal with that. Because you're not gonna keep putting me in the shoe for things I'm not doing. So she says, you're on protective custody. I said, get on out of here with that. But guess what? The officer who committed the voyeurism against me signed the orders for me to go to the SHU for her own investigation. That part.
Now that's
Come on
corrupt.
now. Come on now. And then when the lieutenant came in to do the investigation, some of the staff liked me, a few of them. They said he said he's going to keep you in the SHU because you should have kept this internally.
Oh.
The warden allowed it, and she's a female. She allowed all that. She participated in that. After she knew that that officer had committed voyeurism against me, she sent that officer to curse me out, to call me ignorant, call me names because I was sending her emails. She was the only dumb enough to do it. That's why she chose her. I know why she chose her, because she's not very smart. I don't know how she made lieutenant. That's another thing. They just promote them. So you as the warden know that I was sexually harassed, and you have her come curse me out for sending you emails because you don't like my emails, and then you have her sign the orders to put me in the hole under her own sexual harassment investigation.
That's wild. That right there
Stop.
is wild.
And guess what? Nothing has happened. They transferred her out. I think she requested a transfer. It wasn't a punishment. She walked around the compound like she hadn't done all those things. But here's the problem. She didn't just do it to me. I'm the only one that wrote it up. And she's on camera.
You know, there just gets to be, I imagine, a point where people are just constantly beat up on and they just don't have the
They're
energy
scared.
or the strength
They're
or the
scared.
courage to
Yeah.
fight back.
Because the shoe at Aliceville is what they hold over their heads. And when you have lieutenants like that who put you in the shoe for filing legitimate complaints, and then in the shoe, you're locked down 23 hours out of the day. Me, I'm locked down 24 because I don't go to rec. So they get a 1 hour to go to rec or wherever you want to go. I don't care because you're not putting anybody in there with me. And if you want me to stay in the shoe, because they did that to me once before, I had 15 days to do. I did 45 because I refused to leave. You want to put me in the shoe? Then I'm going to stay in here. You write to regional why you have me in this shoe. Go ahead. I want to see what you have to say. Because I don't have to leave. So they got to the point that wasn't where they wanted to put me anymore. Was in the shoe because I didn't care.
They had to find another way to punish you.
And
try
then
to find
they
one.
removed, while the pandemic was going on, the sexual harassment click where you could put on the email for the ladies to file a complaint to OIG.
They took it off.
They took it off of there. Why would you remove that? Because you're getting too many complaints and you're tired of managing the box. But you're not doing anything
You
about
would
it.
have to get rid of everybody and
That
write
part.
everybody up.
The Department of Justice runs BOP. Who is watching the Department of Justice?
No.
Because they did a report in 19. The Department of Justice, they had a committee that did a report that said that BOP had misconduct running rampant. And I'll give you a copy of the report. And nobody was doing anything, is what the reports, this is them. This is what the report said. You don't see that report anywhere. They did their own investigation and found that everything I'm telling you is true. What I'd like is to find a good attorney, because I have good information.
Well, I think that's a perfect way for us to close this out.
Yes.
Because Miss Pearson needs an attorney
Yes.
in the worst way.
Let's get them.
And if you are out there and would like to speak with her or would like to review any of the documentation that she has provided me with, reach out to the Auntie Hour at jwmedia.com. And I guess that's the perfect way for us to close this episode. So we want people to fight back
Yes. Listen.
and listen to what people are telling you,
They're telling you the truth.
because they're telling you the truth. Until next time, peace. Peace, love, and collard greens.